Welcome to Calm Mind English. You're sitting in your car after work, looking at a message that should take 10 seconds to answer. Someone asked if you're free this weekend. You type, "I'm not sure yet," then erase it because it sounds cold. You try, "I might be busy," then wonder whether that sounds like an excuse. The message becomes longer, then shorter, then longer again. A simple reply starts to carry the weight of the whole relationship. By the time you put your phone down, you may not even know what you were trying to say in the first place. This can happen with friends, work messages, family group chats, or a person you do not know very well yet. The words are usually ordinary. The strange part is how much thought gathers around them. You may read the other person's last message several times. You may look back at an earlier conversation to check the tone. You may move one word, add an emoji, remove it, and then leave the message unsent for an hour. From the outside, this can look like careful communication. Care is part of it. You want to be understood, and you do not want to create an unnecessary problem. But careful communication has a quiet limit. After that point, you are no longer improving the message. You are trying to make the future feel certain. That is a difficult job for a message to do. No sentence can control exactly how another person will read it. No polite phrase can fully remove the chance of a misunderstanding. When you ask a short reply to provide that kind of safety, the reply begins to feel much bigger than it is. The pressure is often strongest with messages that matter a little, but not enough to have a clear answer. You may know how to write an important work email. There are facts, dates, and a reason to be precise. A casual message can be harder because there is more room to imagine what it might mean. "Are you okay?" can feel different from, "Can you send a report by Friday?" The second question gives you a task. The first one can make you wonder whether the person noticed something, whether you should be honest, or whether a short answer will make you seem distant. Even a friendly invitation can create a small private negotiation. You may want to say no, but not disappoint someone. You may want to say yes, but not promise too much. You may not have a perfect explanation for your own mood. And the empty space around that uncertainty gets filled with possible reactions. So you begin editing for reactions that have not happened. You edit for the person who might think you're rude. You edit for the person who might think you're too eager. You edit for a version of yourself who will read the message later and wish you had sounded different. The original purpose of the message gets lost. Perhaps you only wanted to answer honestly. Perhaps you want to make a plan, ask a question, or let someone know you need time. Those are small human actions. They become exhausting when every action also has to prove that you are thoughtful, easy to be around, and impossible to misunderstand. There is a useful difference between being clear and being protected from every possible judgment. Clarity asks, "Does this say what I mean in a respectful way?" Protection asks, "Can I make this impossible to judge badly?" The first question can be answered. The second one has no finish line. This is why editing can continue even after the message is already fine. Your mind is not always searching for better words. It may be searching for the moment when discomfort disappears. That moment rarely arrives through another sentence. It is easy to blame yourself for this. You might call yourself too sensitive, awkward, or indecisive. Those labels do not explain much. A more useful observation is that your attention has become attached to a small uncertain moment. When attention stays there, the message begins to feel like the only thing that matters. The rest of the evening becomes less available. You may open the phone while washing dishes, while brushing your teeth, or while trying to watch something you normally enjoy. The unfinished reply keeps pulling you back because it seems as if one more adjustment might finally settle it. The first step is not to force yourself to become casual overnight. It is to notice the moment when communication turns into control. You can be a considerate person without making every reply carry your entire identity. There's another reason this pattern becomes sticky. Each small edit can bring a brief sense of relief. You change "sure" to "I think so," and for a few seconds the message feels safer. You remove a sentence, and the risk seems lower. You add one detail, and the other person may seem easier to predict. That relief is real, even when it does not last. Your mind learns from the timing. It notices that uncertainty felt uncomfortable. Editing happened, and the discomfort became quieter for a moment. The next time a message feels uncertain, editing becomes the obvious response. This does not mean you are trapped in a serious problem because you reread a text. It means the habit has a simple reward built into it. Repeating the behavior can feel useful because it gives you a small break from not knowing. The trouble is that the break teaches a very demanding lesson. It suggests that uncertainty should always be removed before you act. Then the next message may feel uncomfortable sooner, and it may take more editing to reach the same temporary calm. Consider what happens when someone asks a simple question while you're tired. You read it quickly and feel a small tension in your chest. It may be late. You may have spent the day making decisions for other people. You may not have enough attention left to choose the right tone easily. Instead of recognizing that you are tired, you may treat the tension as information about the message. The thought arrives, this reply needs more work. You rewrite it while your energy is low, which makes it harder to decide. And the difficulty seems to prove that the message is important. This is one reason messages can become heavier at night. The phone is still close, but your ability to hold uncertainty is often lower. A reply that would take 30 seconds in the morning may feel loaded after a long day. The same pattern can appear after a difficult meeting or a conversation that left you unsure. If your mind already feels alert for signs of disapproval, a message is an easy place to look for more signs. Every word has a tone. Every pause before sending can seem meaningful. Old conversations suddenly become evidence. Reading old messages can be useful when you need a date, a detail, or a clear agreement. It becomes less useful when you're trying to discover what another person secretly thinks of you. The conversation rarely contains an answer strong enough to settle that question, so the search keeps going. There is also a social habit that makes the pattern easier to miss. Many of us have learned that being easy to communicate with is a kind of responsibility. That is a good value in moderation, but it can become tiring. When you believe that another person's momentary disappointment or confusion must always be prevented by your perfect wording, people are allowed to have their own reactions. A reasonable message can still meet a tired person, a distracted person, or someone who reads quickly. That does not automatically mean you failed at communication. This matters because a message is only one part of a relationship. Tone is also shaped by history, timing, context, and the other person's day. Trying to manage all of that from one small text is like trying to arrange a whole room by moving one cup on a table. The habit can also hide behind the idea of being prepared. You may tell yourself that you are just waiting until you know what you want. Yet an hour passes, and you are still looking at nearly the same sentence. Preparation usually brings you closer to action. Rewriting without a clear new purpose keeps you in the same spot. There is a gentle way to test the difference. Before changing a message again, ask what new information the edit is adding. Are you correcting a fact? Are you making a request clearer? Are you removing words that could honestly confuse someone? Those are useful reasons. If the answer is only that the current version feels uncomfortable, notice that carefully. Feeling uncomfortable does not prove the message is wrong. It may simply mean you are about to let another person see a normal, imperfect part of you. That can feel especially hard when you're used to thinking ahead for everyone. You may have become skilled at sensing what people need before they say it. You may notice changes in tone quickly. Those skills can make relationships warmer. They can also make a pause in a chat feel like a task you have to solve. The goal is not to stop caring about tone. It is to stop treating care as an endless editing process. A message can be warm without being perfectly shaped. It can be brief without being unkind. It can leave a little room for another person to ask a follow-up question. When you understand the loop, you can respond to it in a smaller way. You do not need a dramatic rule about never rereading messages. You only need a boundary that separates real communication from an attempt to gain impossible certainty. One simple boundary is a two-check rule. Write the message once. Read it once for meaning and once for kindness. If both are there, send it or decide clearly that you will answer at a specific later time. Meaning asks whether the other person can understand the point. Kindness asks whether the message says it without unnecessary sharpness. These are concrete checks. They are different from checking whether every possible reader would feel exactly what you hope they feel. For example, you might write, "I can't make it this weekend, but thank you for asking." That is clear and kind. You may feel the urge to add a longer explanation. Sometimes an explanation is useful. Other times, it is only an attempt to make saying no feel less visible. You can also give yourself a short pause before sending, but make the pause physical rather than mental. Put the phone down for 1 minute. Look out the window, get a glass of water, or stand up from the chair. Then return and use the two checks. This works differently from staying in the message and turning it over again. A physical pause gives your attention somewhere else to go. It lets the tension move through your body a little instead of asking the words to absorb all of it. There are messages that deserve more care. A sensitive work issue, a conflict, a request involving money, or a serious change in a relationship may need time. The point is not to use a fast rule when the situation genuinely needs thought. In those cases, be specific about what you are deciding. You might need to check a fact, choose a boundary, or wait until you are calm enough to speak honestly. When the reason is clear, the pause has a purpose. It is not the same as circling the same sentence, because certainty still feels out of reach. For ordinary messages, try leaving one small imperfection alone. It might be a sentence that is not as elegant as you want. It might be an emoji you are not fully sure about. It might be a reply that is shorter than the one your mind keeps asking for. Then notice what happens after you send it. The discomfort may rise for a moment. You may want to reopen the chat and check whether the person has seen it. Let that urge be present without turning it into another task. Most of the time, life continues in a less dramatic way than your mind predicted. The other person replies, asks a question, changes the subject, or takes time because they're living their own day. You get new information from the real interaction rather than from another round of guessing. This is important because confidence does not always appear before the action. Often, it grows after you have sent a clear message and discovered that you can handle the ordinary uncertainty that follows. You learn that a pause, a question, or a slightly imperfect sentence does not erase your ability to connect. You can make the experiment even smaller. Choose one low-stakes reply this week. It could be a message to a friend about a time to meet, a short answer in a group chat, or a simple thank you. Use the two checks, send it, and leave your phone in another room for 5 minutes. Do not use the experiment to prove that you will never feel tense again. Use it to notice that tension can exist beside a reasonable decision. That is a quieter and more useful kind of control. Over time, the message may return to its proper size. It becomes a way to communicate, not a place where every future reaction has to be solved in advance. You can still choose your words with care. You can still wait when a conversation truly matters. But on an ordinary evening, with a small reply on a bright screen, you may be able to stop after the message says what you mean. The phone can rest on the table. The rest of your evening can begin again.